So thinking back on my own experiences, how I felt when I started competing, where I am now and the journey to get there, I kind of compiled a little list of things, 8 things that you should think about before you enter your first competition. Because it's a big scary thing, kind of going from the gym and then deciding if you want to go into competition, if you don't, if you do, what kind of comp. So there's so many different things to think about. Nice and succinct, some top pointers. First one, have fun. I assume that you started this sport because you enjoyed it, you came to the gym, you might have seen other people trying it, thought, oh, I'd like to give that a go. Don't let that fun disappear just because you're entering a competition. It's a hobby at the end of the day for the majority of us. Very few of us out of the whole strongman community make any money from what we do. So yeah, go, enjoy it. It's fun. It's not supposed to be scary. It's not supposed to be intimidating. And it's an exciting opportunity to see what your body can do that it hasn't done before. You'll do things that you never thought possible at all. And embrace that, you'll meet loads and loads of new people, do new events, go to new places. It's an exciting time, so just don't lose that element of it. It's a hobby, it's supposed to be fun. Like I've mentioned before, the fun sometimes comes out of it at a higher level, and that's when people lose love for it. So don't be one of those people. Second, find a competition that is right for you. If you're there's an overwhelming amount of competitions on Facebook where you'll see different events, different levels, different places. And if you've got 2 competitions, you've got one, every event suits you, they're things you really enjoy doing. The weights are easy for you, you go in and I could top 3 in that competition. You've got another one, weights are upper end of what you can do. You might be one event that you think, oh, I might not be able to do that. Events that maybe you haven't particularly trained, you're not that familiar with. If you're wanting to go, enjoy it, have fun, then yeah, go for the one that's going to be easy. But if you want to push yourself, find out what you can do, and if you're serious about going further in the sport, moving on to bigger things, then I'd fully recommend that you go for the comp that's going to challenge you. Because if you're not going to push yourself, then you're not going to find out what you're capable of. Go for a comp that's going to challenge you, going to make you do things, make you get uncomfortable, because when you climb the ranks, you're not always going to be comfortable. When you go in for qualifiers, so the regional qualifiers, England's, Brits, you can't handpick the event and say, oh, I want this to come up and this to come up and this to come up. You're given your events and you do them. So get ready for that early on. Third one, a big one for me personally and a lot of other women, I think, find out if you want to compete in a weight class, if it's for you, and if it's not, don't worry. So when you're at novice inters level, there's more weight classes coming into it now, but it tends to just be open weight, and that's fun, that's fine. As you climb the ranks, it's like, oh, you've got under 63, under 82 and over 82, and it's like, oh, I need to start thinking about my weight now. And for some people, it can be quite a touchy subject. I know when I was really, really young, I did struggle with food and things, didn't want to eat anything. Then as you grow older, go through your teens, body image is a massive thing. So I didn't really look at my weight for a long time. It's a difficult one. If you know that you can get on the scales and that number doesn't define you, it just puts you in a weight category, then go for it. Do your cuts, do them safely, do them slowly. If you haven't done it before, get a professional on board, because you don't want to be starving yourself, still not making weight, then having to water load and then compete, absolutely fatigued. You want to do it properly. If the thought of stepping on the scales scares the hell out of you, then don't do it. Just compete where you naturally sit. If that means you're not going to be the best, then it means you're not going to be the best, but at least your mental health isn't going to take a dive bomb. So that would be my advice with regards to weight classes. If you want to take it seriously, you want to get to the top, number on the scale doesn't really bother you, it's just to put you in your group, fine, go for it, fully recommend it, it's what I did. But if it's going to mess you up a bit, it's really not worth it. So now you're at your comp, you've chosen what you're going to do, you're there, you're ready, you're really, really nervous. The last thing on your mind is food. You might have eaten your breakfast, you might not. If you can, if you're not in a weight class, eat before you leave the house to compete. Some slow releasing carbs, so things like oats that are going to keep you going through the day. You don't want to be just a lot of people just jamming sweets. For me personally, I wouldn't do that. Do it throughout the day, but first thing, you don't want to be going up here and then as you go to your first event just having a massive sugar crash. But yeah, it's really important to kind of take foods, drinks with you. Make sure you've been having plenty of salts. You don't want to cramp up on the day. Stay hydrated throughout, otherwise you'll get really fatigued really quickly. And food-wise, have a decent meal kind of on the morning of the comp, and then personally for me, I just nibble throughout the day. Bananas, flapjacks, things like that are my go-to. Might take a sandwich. Adrenaline doesn't like me to eat a sandwich. But yeah, and also on that point, adrenaline will make you think that you're not hungry. Force it in. Not force feed so that you're full, but just so that you've got enough fuel in you to get through the competition, and then enjoy the food after as well. I always have like a lot of food. Next point, warming up. A lot of the time at competitions you can get a bit carried away, going and, oh, this is really exciting. You don't really know anyone, you're in a strange environment where you don't feel like you can just go up and get on kit, but warming up's really important. When you're training, you warm up. When you're competing, you're lifting heavier weights than you normally would in the gym. You wouldn't just go in with no warming up and do like your max squat, would you? So on the day, make sure that you give yourself time to warm up, do your activation, whatever you do beforehand, and then get on the kit. With regards to kit, depending on the event, will differ in how you warm up. If you're going for a max event, I wouldn't max when you're warming up. At your lower weights, few reps, and then a few comfortable singles near to your opener. Save your opener for when you actually start. Speed events, so like yoke, farmers, carries, things like that. Get a feel for it. I wouldn't go all the way up to comp weight. I'd go just below and I'd just be picking up a few steps. Leave it. You don't want to tire yourself out, especially farmers, because you've got grip. You don't want to tire your grip out before you go. Rep events, again, similar to the max, just a couple of reps. Get yourself warm, get yourself near the weight so you're not going in cold. And do that between each event. Make sure that you're keeping yourself warm. So if it's a cold day, get your layers on, take your coat, take your hat. Wear sun cream if it's sunny. Yeah, warm up, it's really important. You don't want to pull any muscles or hurt yourself like I did. Recovery, so in preparation for a competition and after a competition, recovering is really important. There's a few ways you can do it. So as I briefly mentioned before, fueling your body is really important on the day, but also in the lead up. If you're competing in a weight class, you may well have to be in a calorie deficit in the lead up, which isn't ideal, but it is what it is. Just make sure you're kind of at the highest deficit you can be, fueling with water, things like that. If you can afford to be in a surplus or maintenance, then do. Make sure you're eating plenty the day before, but nothing kind of too different to what you'd normally eat, because you don't want to upset your stomach on the day of the comp. So that's food. Foam rolling kind of after and in between sessions is invaluable. I never used to do it enough, but it does help a lot. I also get regular sports massages and would recommend you do the same too. Deep tissue just frees things off, makes you feel like a new person, and allows you to train a bit harder. From time to time, I tend to get them once every 2 to 3 weeks. It depends on the intensity of your training, on how often you'll need them. Go and you'll find out for yourself kind of where you feel you need to get them. What else can you do? I also go for walks daily, just to kind of free everything off. When we're in the gym, we're doing a lot of heavy stuff. It's nice to just let everything loosen. And one of the most important things that often is missed is sleep. I'm one of these people that if I know I need to be up at 6 o'clock, I'll be there at 7 o'clock the night before, counting what time I need to go to bed to get the right amount of sleep in. I aim for at least 8. Sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 10. But it's so important. That's when your muscles are going to recover the most. So number 7 is networking. When you go to different competitions, you will meet lots of different people. Like I mentioned before, you'll just meet people that you thought you would never be amongst, which is really, really cool. Don't be intimidated by it. I was at first, but everybody that competes is just another person. Talk to them, ask them what they've been doing, ask them how they train. Some people are like an absolute fountain of knowledge. So the more you talk to people, the more you can learn. So like I've been speaking to Rhiannon quite a lot, who I compete against. Obviously, we're all very competitive, but we support each other as well. And the amount of things that I've learned from just approaching her and asking her questions is unreal. So I advise you to do the same. Don't be kind of intimidated by people or put off. Most of the time, people are happy to share information. So learn, and you'll make lots of friends as well, which is really, really cool. So like Strongman's become a big part of my social life. And last, and I'd say most importantly, especially for us women that like to do this a lot, is don't compare yourselves to other people. Social media is a massive part of this game now. So you switch on your phone, you scroll through Instagram, oh, so-and-so's doing this, so-and-so's doing this, so-and-so's doing this, so-and-so's doing this. And it's so easy to look at that and think, oh, but I'm not doing that. People are at different points. Someone could be peaking while I'm just starting my volume phase. So that, yeah, they are going to be lifting heavier weights than I am. So what's the point in me comparing? Also things like menstrual cycle, they might be in a really good place, I might not. So why compare? Someone might be really good at one event that I'm not very good at, but I know I can beat them in others. So why compare? And it's self-sabotaging to be looking at what everyone else is doing. You got into it because you enjoyed it, to push yourself to see what you could do. So don't lose sight of that. If you're lifting 3 more reps on the same weight than you were 2 months ago, then you're winning. So don't get caught up on what other people are doing, because otherwise you're just setting yourself up to fail. So, but yeah, biggest thing to take out of that, don't lose sight of why you started and enjoy every minute.